Adding new grid lines to existing curtain walls can be done in a number of ways. Some curtain walls come with existing grid lines while others do not. To add grid lines, we can open the Curtain Grid tool. In order to create grid lines, we are given three options: all segments, one segment, and all except picked. Let us start by using the All Segments tool, which will create a grid line through the whole panel. By hovering over the horizontal edge of the panel, we can place vertical grid lines. Revit will automatically snap to key points, for example center lines. By hovering over the vertical edge of the panel, we can place horizontal grid lines. Once again, we are able to snap to the center part of the panel and divide the panel. Now let's use the One Segment tool. This tool will allow us to create a grid line over a single segment instead of across the whole wall. Once again, by hovering over the horizontal edge, we can place vertical grid lines. By hovering over the vertical edges of the panel, we can place horizontal grid lines. Now let's use All Except Pick tool. This tool starts by placing a line across the whole wall. Then we can select the segments we wish to be excluded. Once we have chosen the segments to exclude, the new segments will be created. Existing curtain grid lines are easily modified. First, let's select the grid line we wish to modify. Next, open the Add Remove Segment tool, and using this tool we can select the segments we wish to remove, turning the solid line into a dashed line. Multiple segments can be removed at once. We can use the same process to add grid lines. First, click on the grid line we want to modify, open the Add Remove Segment tool, and select segments we want to add, turning the dashed line into a solid line. After curtain grid lines have been created, it is easy to place mullions. To do so, we can open the Mullions tool located in the Architecture tab. Once again, we are given multiple options to place mullions: grid lines, grid line segment, or all grid lines. Start by opening the Grid Line tool. We can now select the grid lines to place the mullions. Notice the mullion is placed along the whole grid line. The mullion being used can be changed by selecting a new type. The All Mullions tool can be used to create mullions over the whole system. When dealing with a curtain grid system that is not defined by its type to have a pattern, such as this one, it is easy to make modifications. By selecting a grid line, we can now change the location of the segment by changing the temporary dimension. Modifying grid lines is more difficult when dealing with curtain walls that have a defined curtain grid pattern. This curtain wall is currently defined by its type properties to have a fixed number of horizontal and vertical grid lines. If we try to select a mullion using the Tab key, we will notice that the element have been locked in place. To unpin an element, we can click the pin icon. Now that the element has been unpinned, we can make alterations to the curtain wall. In order to make major changes, multiple elements can be selected at one time. Holding in the Control key while selecting multiple elements will create one large selection. Use the Tab button to select the mullions. This selection can now be unpinned simultaneously using the Unpin tool. Once the mullions have been unpinned, they can also be deleted simultaneously. With the mullions gone, we can now edit the grid lines. Once again, by holding the Control key down, we can select multiple grid lines and unpin them simultaneously. Now we can use the Add Remove Segment tool to remove the grid lines.